So what did we say last time? We're talking to the Jewish people. The job of the Jewish people is to purify and refine and to clean up and bring blessing to this world, to this physical world. That's the job of the Jewish people. The whole essence of the whole Torah, Bible, Jewish Bible, if you want to sum it up in one word, is this world. This world, the importance of this physical world. And God gave the Torah in this world, and God put the Jews in this world, and God put the Holy Temple in this world, and here the Moshiach is going to be in this world, and here God gave the Torah in this physical world, and God made big tzaddikim in this world, and He wants everyone to be tzaddikim in this world. And heaven is only just like an extra thing. Like we said so many times before, if Adam would not have sinned with the tree, and later on the Jews got another chance, and if they wouldn't have sinned with the golden calf, there wouldn't be such a thing as heaven. There would just be godliness in this world. This world would be the way it's supposed to be. So that's the thing of this world. But the way the world is now, it's a desert. The way the world is now, it's a desert. So let's say somebody says, I got a good deal for you. I'm willing to sell you a plot of land for 1,000 acres for $10,000. What do you say? 1,000 acres for $10,000. Where is this? Right, good land, right in the Middle East, beautiful neighbors, whatever you want to call it. You go in this middle of the Sahara Desert. Right? You say, no, who wants land like that? What can you do with it? You can't do anything with it. No one's going to. Well, that's good. No one lives there. You won't have any bad neighbors. You don't want any bad neighbors. You'll have quiet. It'll be quiet. But there's no water over. See, that discourages other people from coming also. What only arguments you can use, you're not going to want to live there. Well, that's the way the whole world is, and that's why the soul does not want to come into this world. It says the soul comes into the world. God forces the soul to come into the world. Even though we said that the best place for the soul could possibly be is this world. That's why God created souls, was to put them in this world. Right? That's why there's in this world. If there wouldn't have been, Adam wouldn't have sinned, then people would be, maybe the souls would be there before they were born. I don't know how it would be. But there wouldn't be a thing of reward and punishment. The biggest reward is to be in this world. And there wouldn't be punishment. No one would want to even think of doing something against what God wants. The world will be, just happy and new and surprised every single instant. So that's the way the world is supposed to be. But it's not that way. It's like a desert. So who wants to live in a desert? The answer is nobody wants to live in a desert, right? It says wrong. The Yetzer Hora wants to live in the evil impulse wants to live in the desert. Scorpions, snakes, whatever is spiders, whatever lives in the desert. They love the desert. But you get rid of the desert, no more scorpions, no more poisonous snakes. I don't know if that's true, but anyway, there's no more desert scorpions. Anyway, there's no. So the whole world is really like a desert. And that's when the Jewish people traveling through the desert with the tabernacle is indicative of what the job of the Jewish people is and why God gave us the Torah. The Torah was given in order to return the world to be the way it was when God created it, and even better, because what we did was to improve the situation. So it's improving the situation even better than it was when man was at heaven and earth, right? God put man in Gan Eden. Gan Eden means heaven. Okay. So the Rebbe said that's the whole idea of the tabernacle. The tabernacle is traveling in the desert, and the tabernacle corresponds to prayer. Prayer, when we pray to God, what's the idea of praying to God? Praying to God is not just requesting things for ourselves. In Judaism, prayer, especially Chassidut, stresses this. Prayer is service of the heart. Service of the heart. In other words, something genuine. Something genuine. Your heart gets inspired by genuine things, or it's supposed to anyway. I mean, you can be fooled also. You see, everybody's excited about the Hamas and the Israelis are so bad and Hamas is so good. They have these also weird, stupid pictures that they show. The obviously staged, picture of some lady crying. It's the same lady, by the way. I noticed the same lady. She's crying over her babies, and then she's crying over her husband, and then she's crying over another husband, and then she's crying over the whole city. And then she's just crying over. She's got this miserable look on her face. It's the same lady, and everybody says, "Oh, the Jews are so terrible. The Jews and the good Arabs," and everybody gets all excited. So your emotions can also be, derailed. And the Rebbe said that's also called moving. And the Rebbe said that's also called moving. That's moving in the wrong direction. It says when you're moving in the wrong direction, so what do you have to do? You have to stand. So standing, that was the boards, these huge boards that they had in the tabernacle that stood up, and that formed the holy and the holy of holies. So that those boards that were there were standing. They were carried by Kahat. Kahat, one of the sons of Levi. The Kahat was the family of Kahat. They carried the boards. They carried the boards and the sockets. They carried the boards. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. That was Merori. I take it back. Kahat, they carried the ark and the altars and all the different furniture that was there, all the different what they call vessels. That's what Kahat carried. Okay, so we have Merari. Merari carried the boards. Boards are standing. Standing means also to stop. And Merari means bitterness. A person has to be bitter when he realizes that he's traveling in the wrong direction. When you realize that you are traveling in the direction of the evil impulse of the snakes and the scorpions. Snakes and the scorpions love the desert, and you're traveling with them. You are riding on top of them, or they're riding on top of you, or they're directing you, whatever it is. The Yetzer Hora. And that you're another name for the Yetzer Hora, for the evil impulse, is selfishness. Selfishness. I want, I think, I need, I can, I don't, I do, I, you, I. This big capital I. That can sometimes be the how do you go? You got the wrong driver in the bus. Wrong drivers. He's going in the wrong direction. Right? That can be, if that's your direction and that's your values in life, is your own selfishness, then you're going in the wrong direction. And that's you have to stop. How do you stop yourself from going in the wrong direction in life? Bitterness. Bitterness. I have to stop doing this. I can't do this anymore. I want to do it. I'm not going to do it anymore. Right? I'm not going to do it. I did it every day. I did it every night. I've been doing it for years. It's wrong. It's the wrong direction. Okay, one more time. And then no more. That's what I've been saying this one more time already for 10 years, 5 years. No more. Bitterness. I got to stop. That's bitterness. That's Merari. That's the boards. That means stopping. Stopping and taking inventory. Here we go. Okay. Now we're ready. That's where we're going. In the prayer and the service of praying to God. Now again, I can't stress this enough. Chassidut, the main feature of Chassidut is prayer. Prayer is where everything that's written in these books becomes activated. Prayer is where you activate your love, and your awe and your fear properly. Everybody in the world is motivated, every normal person anyway, is motivated by love and fear and I want to call it purpose, goal. Everybody has, everyone in the world. If you didn't have some goal, you wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. You have some reason to do something. And love are things you want to do that makes you feel good, and fear are things that you avoid, that don't make you feel good. And if you look at yourself for 1 second, you realize that's what all the media is about and what the whole world is about. What the whole world is about. What is good for you? They scare you. You're going to have the corona. There's going to be the global warming that you'll be afraid of, right? And who's good? The good is the United Nations is good, and the WHO is good. They're good. They're going to save you, and this is bad. And all of a sudden, the next day you realize, hey, maybe that was wrong. No, it's not. No, the United Nations is bad, and the corona is bad. And what's good is to be healthy, to not pay attention. All of a sudden, everyone's confused. No one knows what is good and what is bad. So that's the whole idea of prayer. Prayer is supposed to make you feel how good God is, to feel how good Hashem is. Then at least you'll have a just choice, a fair choice. Fair choice. Choice is fair, right? What would you rather have? To be honest or to have $1 million? Says, what does it mean to be honest? What does that mean? $1 million, I know. That's good. I want that. I want the $1 million. But honesty is a really good thing. To be honest, yeah, listen, give me the $1 million and I'll figure out. So it's not fair. If you don't know the good feeling of being honest, then it's not a fair choice. So it's the same thing. What am I going to choose to serve the creator of the universe? Right? I hear there's all these religions in the world, and they're all saying, you do this and you eat this and you bow down over here, and you're going to go to heaven. If you don't do it, you're going to burn in hell. It says, okay, it could be. It gives me a feeling of security. I know I'm going to die one day. What's going to be? So I'll do that. You say, no, listen, either choose this religion or choose God. Right? God, there's the 7 Noahide commandments. Then says, I don't know what God is. They told me what God is. I don't know. So in order to have a true feeling of what God is, so at least you can make a fair choice, that's what prayer is for. Now, if you want to have a little bit of an idea what prayer is, I suggest to read the Psalms of King David and see the Psalms of King David, especially the ones right at the end where he's praising God. He's praising God. There's a lot of others words also where he's praising God. And you start to think, who was King David praying to? Who was he praising? God, he makes all the stars and he makes all the trees are praising God and the rivers are praising God. And Eitz Chayav, Kol Arazim, the Behema, Bechol Tzipor Kanaf, all the birds and what are they praising? What are they praising God? And you start to think. It says that's the whole idea of prayer is bittul ratzon. It has to be, first of all, you have to arouse what's called the lower fear of God. What does it mean, the lower fear of God? You have a basic feeling that God is awesome. God is creating me. I don't want to do anything against God. God is something like really very, very, how do you say, precious, valuable. It's awe. Uberchas Yotzer Or, when you talk about the angels, how the angels, they're all surrendering to God. You start to realize how great God is. This is by means of thinking. So you have love and fear. That was one of the bad things about Napoleon. Why the first Rebbe of Chabad was so tremendously opposed to Napoleon, and all the other leaders, the Jewish leaders especially, were in favor of Napoleon, because Napoleon offered freedom. But the first Rebbe of Chabad, one reason is because the kings of those days were not good, and the church was also not good. But it was better than Napoleon. At least the church and the kings, people knew there was something above them. They had a basic awe of someone above them. And Napoleon wanted to take that away. Napoleon wanted everyone, no more fear, just love yourself. Love yourself. You're here for yourself. And of course, me, Napoleon, he wanted to be the emperor, so everybody would love him. So he really wanted to replace everything. But his thing is that there's nothing to fear and nothing to love, just what you see. What you see, yourself. You determine what's good and what's not good. Okay, where do we get this from? To fear God and to love God? From the angels. The angels, this says they're all in awe of God and they're all sweating. Remember, that's what we learned in Ezekiel. Then you can come after this lower fear. In other words, you realize that God is really something awesome, and you respect. That's the word, respect. You have respect for God. You have respect. I don't know what God is, but I know I'm not God. That's called the lower fear. The lower fear. I know God is bigger than me. He's more powerful than me. He's creating me. But one thing I know is that I'm not God. This feeling that I have, I'm me, that's not ultimate reality. There's something more awesome than that. I have to check myself. Can't do what I want because I'm not the king of the universe. That's fear, lower fear. Then after that, you can come to love. You can come to love God. But God is really, he's above me. He's so infinitely great. And he's creating me. This is really good. He's creating the whole world. You look at King David, he's praising God, how much he loves God. Right? I love God. This is by means of hitbonenus. And this comes by means of contemplate. You have to think. Sit and think. Think. When you say, but what does it mean to think? The hitbonenut, it's used a lot in Chassidut. Hitbonenut means to contemplate. What does it mean? mainly hitbonenut comes to solve a problem, something that's really bothering you, and you want to solve that problem. That's hitbonenut. Hitbonenut. Like for instance, you want to travel to, you got to travel to New York, and the planes aren't working. So how are you going to get there? So you sit and think, well, maybe call up my friend. Maybe I got a car. Maybe I can rent a plane. Maybe I can take a train. Maybe I'll just call on the phone. Maybe I can make a phone call. But you're sitting, you're thinking, reality, what I should do, right? How I can do it. Maybe there are some planes. Maybe I can pay like a double ticket. Maybe I can and do something. But you're thinking deeply about it, right? Thinking deeply about it. That's called hitbonenut. Hitbonenut means to think deeply, not to take things at face value. Maybe there's a solution. Hitbonenut, to think. Here the problem is what we're trying to solve. God, King David says, God is creating the world. God is infinitely good. God is infinitely powerful. I don't feel it. I don't even know what he's talking about. That's the problem. How can it be that King David is saying these things about God, and I don't feel at all what he's talking about? I don't even know what he's talking about, right? He's just praising. Good, he praises God a little bit, but how can it be? What's it talking? So you start to think, maybe does God really exist? Is there really such a thing? He's creating me all the time. Can't be. But on the other hand, how did I get here? How am I here now? Could it be God? Maybe not. Maybe yes. Right? The scientists say this. That's hitbonenut. Let's see what the Rebbes of Chabad think about this, and let's see what their answer is. Right? I already know what all these professors say, and these whatever it is, naturalists and these other people, the atheists, and they're entitled to their opinion also, right? The existentialists and the French philosophers. They're entitled to their opinion. Now let's see what the opinion of the Rebbe is. Let's see. Is there what to think about? Is there what to love? So you sit and you think, hitbonenut, by thinking deeply. Is what they're saying real or not? Hitbonenut means to come to a real decision. What is real? What's the truth? Hitbonenut. When you say Avat Olam and you say Shema Yisrael, you should love God. This is what's called the chamber of love. Pirush Shema. What does it mean? When the motto of Judaism, Shema means understand. Shema means listen, Jews. Hear, O Israel. Hear, O Israel. I don't know where they got the O from. Hear, Israel. Shema Yisrael. Listen. I remember in all the English sitters, right? I did go to bar mitzvah class, so I looked a little bit in the sitter. I wasn't religious, but I said, "Hear, O Israel." What is O? I never got that. Anyway. So Shema Yisrael, Shema means understand. Hear Israel, hear, it means understand. Like, do you hear what I'm saying? Shema Yisrael, understand, Jews, that God is our God and God is one. What does it mean? This is the idea of thinking deeply in the greatness of God. How it is that all of the worlds, Kulam, all of them, Gan Eden Elyon, the upper heaven, Gan Eden Tachton, the lower heaven. That in general, that's called the world. The dimension was called Bria, and below that is called Yetzira. That's the lower heaven. And also what's going to be in the future. This is when the dead rise up. It's called the 7,000th year after time is finished. level. And also on the Nun Alfem Yuvelos, it says that there's 50,000 jubilees. These are all different levels of godliness, of reality. All of them rose up in one thought of God, in front of God. All these creations with all the worlds, with the angels, by God, it's just like one word. And that's our God. Sofa Mabid, Sofa Doros, that God can look at for the end of generations. Now you sit down and you think, I mean, is this stuff really real? And this God is creating me. He's creating me, so he's infinitely close to me. On the other hand, he's creating all of the worlds, all the spiritual worlds. There's all these spiritual worlds. You think all the creations. I saw yesterday a picture that they have from some, what is it, a telescope? What is it? What do they call it? I forgot. Observatory on some mountain in Arizona. I don't think it's the Hubble telescope, whatever. Now they have all these new things. A picture of the new dimensions of the universe, new galaxies and what do they call them? Nebulae and all this stuff. I mean, it's just you can't you can't it's just mind blowing to see this thing, and they did it so it's sort of like a 3 dimension, a little bit. You see one sort of deeper than the other. You get this idea of the space which is in between them, which to this day the scientists have absolutely no idea what is space, as far as I know. I mean, I'm not that up on the thing. What is it? They thought it once it used to be ether. They thought it was an ether, and they discovered you can't measure the ether. There's no such thing as ether. So what exactly is between one planet and the other, and one star and the other, one galaxy and the nebulae and these things? What's over there? It can't be nothing. It's empty space. Anyway, so the thing is pretty amazing, and God creates all this, and that's not even 1/1,000,000th of the amazingness of the spiritual worlds. Oh, the spiritual world, that's really, and there really are spiritual worlds, and what's between one spiritual world and another spiritual world, and all of this business is just nothing to the God who's creating us. God's our friend. You want to call it our next door neighbor, our best friend. By the Jews, it's our father. Right? We're the sons of God. And this is, so when you start to think about this, one second, what am I getting excited about? Is this stuff real? Is it really real or not? But you start to think that it is, that in one thought, God created all of these heavens and all of these the constellations, stars, whatever they call, right? All of the worlds. For instance, a thought of a person, when a person is just like a garment to his soul, the person's soul. You have an idea what your soul is? You know how your soul is expressed. So one way your soul is expressed is thoughts. Thoughts come bubbling out from your soul. So one thought that you think is like nothing compared to your soul. How much more so by God? We say all of the world just is from one thought. All the worlds, all the heavens are just like from one thought of God. Now compare one thought of yours to your soul. It's like nothing, right? Nothing. So now compare all of creation with all from all time, and say that's just one thought by God. What does that mean? What does it mean? So God is infinitely real. Now you sort of understand why at Mount Sinai their souls jumped out of their bodies, because the essence of the Creator is revealed. Even if one angel was revealed, they would jump out of their body. That's what it means. God is a king. Geus lovish, that God puts on a garment of greatness. I know Masha Olaba Machshava, that which God thought to emanate and to create all these worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, these different dimensions of reality. In order that God should be a king on the people, which is us. So all these worlds are created only in order that there should be Jews, and that the Jews should say, God, you're the king. In this thought, that one thought was just put into one garment, which is called the garment of thought, and that created the whole world. It's not like will and thought of the king, a physical king, that a king wants to rule over someone. So the king is separate, and the war and his subjects are separate. And therefore, shaykh rotzon lamelech. Therefore, it's relevant to say that a king wants to rule over them, which is not the case by God. All the worlds are created, something from nothing. The king doesn't create the world, his subjects. The king of England doesn't create England. God is the king of the universe, and he creates the universe. And the universe means me and you also, and all the angels and stuff. Okay, so what's the point of this? The point of this is to think about that it's real. To think this God is really creating me. He's infinitely close to me. And when you sit and you think about this, if so, the thought that God has to create worlds and to rule over them, this is just like one thought of God. Therefore, God said, it says God is a king, and he puts on a garment of rulership, melech geut lavesh. He puts on a garment of, what do you call it, highness. Hainu shemachshava elyona, that God's thought is ana emlach, God wants to rule. Urach bechinas, it's just a garment. That's what it means, bring the garment of the king. God said to that Achashverosh said to Mordechai in the Megillah of Purim, God's name is not mentioned. So it says, according to Midrash, other places, that when it says Achashverosh, that it's also a metaphor for God. Achash, because the Acharish and the Reshi Shalom, the end and the beginning, it says, so God said, take the garment, God says, also Achashverosh said, and he said it to Mordechai, take the garment of kingship. He said this, one second, I'll get it straight. Achashverosh said to Haman, take the garments of kingship that the king puts on and give them to Mordechai. That's what it said. So here, Achashverosh is the king, and the garments that the king wears, God is telling to Mordechai, God is saying to Haman, who Haman is the evil impulse, and God is saying, put those garments on Mordechai and the Jewish people. That's the garments. This is just a garment of godliness. That's God's thought. In other words, the reason why God is creating the world. That's what it means. That's what you're supposed to think. You're supposed to think like this. Think about how great the worlds are. Think about how great the angels are. You read in the Psalms, you read in the prayer book, the angels. Here we have the prophecy of Ezekiel. We're going to talk about that soon. About the angels. God is creating all these angels, and God is creating them just from one thought. And he's creating that. Those angels are just nothing. There's infinite numbers of groups of angels, and every angel is like 1/3 of the universe, whatever it means. And God is creating the whole business just from one thought. And that God is the God of the Jews. And that God is the God of the Jews, and he wants us to appreciate it. And when the Jews appreciate it, then the whole entire world benefits. Then the whole world benefits. When we say that God is our God, it doesn't mean that he's our God and therefore we're rich and that's how we get all our money. And that's also so. But the main purpose of God in creating the Jews is to benefit the whole world. We're supposed to be the blessing for the whole entire world. That's what we're supposed to be. The blessing for the whole. So when the Jews think properly about God, that opens the door to the whole world to be able to think and to feel and to experience and give, like we said before, give God a fair chance. So it should be a fair choice between choosing the creator, everything, or maybe God is. If the Jews believe in God, that's supposed to be the Holy Land. The Holy Land is supposed to announce that there's a creator. There's a creator. That's why the whole world doesn't want the Jews to have it. Because the Jews, they don't want, the world doesn't want to have anything to do with God, right? The United Nations and the WHO and all these things, they think that they're God. They don't want God to start, telling them what to do. Don't kill. If there's no killing, there's no World Health Organization. Like Dr. Zelenko used to say, World Homicide Organization. God is the essence of life, is the source of life, and only the Jewish people really have an idea about this. And you look at all the other religions in the world, you see it. That God puts himself into this thought. That's what it means. God is our God. And the word Elohim, this name of God, is how God, so to speak, contracts himself, articulates himself. And then we say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto L'Olam Va'ed, that our job is to think about God and then to draw down the name and the glory of God into the whole world. When a person thinks about this, then is given birth to love. And this love, that's the thing of the Uriot, of the curtains. Okay, so let's get this straight. There's Gershom, Kahat, and Merari. Gershom, he carried the, I'm sorry, Gershom, Kahat, and Merari, right. Merari, he carried the boards. The boards mean, Merari means being bitter. The boards mean stop. Stop doing bad things. Stop. That's the boards. Gershom. Kahat, they carried the vessels. The vessels, that is love, fear, serving God from your personality. But then there's that's the lower type of love. But then there's a higher type of a love. And that is, 1 second, 1 minute. Okay. This love is the idea of Uriot. That's the idea of what Gershom, he carried the curtains. And that was the question we had over here. We have a special, last week's Torah portion talked about Kahat and Merari, what they carried. Merari carried the boards, and Kahat carried the vessels, the ark, etc. And now we have that was last week's Torah reading. Now this week's Torah reading starts off with Gershom. And the Rebbe said, "Why make a special chapter just for Gershom? Why?" He says because Gershom he carries the curtains and the drapes and the coverings. This is in general, like it says, Avol Derech Prat. This is the 6 emotions, like it says, B'malachim, in the angels. It says in 2 they cover their faces, in 2 they fly, and 2 it says are on the ground. That's the wings of the angels. That's what makes us move. The wings of the angels, that's called Rotza V'Shov. Running to God, that's love. Coming back, that's fear. Therefore, so now we have the tabernacle was the example of serving God. The boards were stopping doing bad, stopping thinking, who am I? The vessels, that is lower love of God. We'll see later on what the curtains, that's a higher level of God, higher level of love. So therefore, this whole entire business was talking about how you can serve the creator of the universe and make this world a better place. Look, and therefore, there were 42 journeys in the desert. This is 7, and this corresponds to the 7 sentences. Anabakoach Gedula. Look in the Siddur, you'll see. Each one of them are 6 words, and that's the Ureot. That's the curtains. Sheish, Vargomen, these different types. There's silk and whatever it is, a fine wool, and purple, and Sheish Kavni. This is the 6th. Sheish is a type of material, but it's a sheish. Sheish means there's 6 different colors. And also there's a michse oros v'tachashim. There's the coverings also of the animal hides of the tachashim. Nobody knows what that is today. Some sort of multicolored animal. That it says sus govna. And the rabbis say shesus v'gavanim. You're happy to see the different colors, namely the 6 emotions, like we said before. So that's the curtains. The curtains are, and these drapes and everything, that's an upper love and fear of the creator that's encompassing you. That's Ratza V'Shov Ba'adam. That's the idea of going to God and coming back. Ratza, loving God, and Shuv is drawing down God into the world by means of the commandments. She'ein, this is the 248 limbs of the king. Just like a limb, Shehu Kli, which is a vessel to the revelation of light. And by means of this, that a person draws down this light of God into the world by means of the commandments. It says Asher Kirishanu b'mitzvotav. That's what it means. It returns and love arouses a big love of God in the soul. That's what it says. Mashcheni acharecha nurutza. What King Solomon said in the Song of Songs: "Draw me after you, and we will run." So what does it mean, draw me after you? So again, let's go. First of all, we have the boards. The boards is stopping. Stop what you're doing. Stop your normal way of thinking. Stop. After that, we got the vessels. The vessels are the lower level of love of God. Then we have the garments, what Gershon carried, the tribe of Gershon, Merari, Gershon Kahas and Merari. The Gershon, he carried the drapes. The drapes are talking about an upper level of God, but more exactly, it's talking about the results of this upper level of love, and that is the commandments. When we do the commandments and we realize that we're actually doing what God wants, God is creating all the worlds. We just finished saying before, then you have an even higher level of love. And that's what it means. Draw me after you, and we will run. At first, you have a love of God, but when you join in doing the commandments, in other words, even your body becomes a partner to doing what God wants and feeling God what God wants, then your body and your natural soul also have a love of God. That's what it said before, that the king said to Haman, take the garments and give them to Mordechai. The garments in this case, we're talking about the Torah and the commandments, especially the commandments. So it comes out that, first of all, we love God. And because of that, we do the commandments. And then there's more love of God. So it comes out that there's a ratzoi, that there's a greater level of love, which comes after the commandments that we do because of our first type of love of God. And then we have a higher love of God. So we want to do more commandments. Sure, then there's going back after the ratzoi. And that's the idea of B'nai Gershon. That's the B'nai Gershon, the sons of Gershon, that they carried the urios, they carried the curtains. Namely, they drew down, excuse me, they drew down this high level of love, which is by means of doing the commandments. And that's the idea of Gershon, the curtains, because the commandments are called garments. They do the commandments in a normal love. That's the ratzoi, that's running, which is before coming back. And also the reot, these the curtains and the coverings, they're also surrounding, just like the commandments. The commandments, they surround and embrace the soul. And that's why it's a very amazing thing that Judaism has this thing called commandments. And commandments are sort of, they're basically pretty complicated rituals that you do. And the Jewish people, every Jew does it. Every Jewish man, to take an example, puts on tefillin. Now, Jews that are not religious, so they don't put on tefillin. But Jews that are not religious, and you ask them to put on tefillin, there are some of them that they're not religious and they don't put on tefillin. And if you ask them to do it, I do it every day. And you ask them to put on tefillin. I go to this nearby, what is it? It's outside of this hospital. and people, we go to the marketplace, all sorts of other, and you ask me, and they put on tefillin. And it's a whole ritual you do outside. It's not just you read a little sentence or something like that. It's a whole put on one box and another box, and then you say, a sentence or two. Why do they do it? Because Jews feel that the commandments are not religious. They certainly are religious, but there's something much more than that. It's God embracing you. And God is not a religious figure in Judaism. It's also religious, but God is not religious. God is the source of reality. God is the creator. God is creating your feet, and he's creating the world, he's creating the galaxies, creating everything. That's not religious, right? That's not religious. The floor you're sitting on, that's religious. The chair you're in. That's just the source of reality. That's Gershom. Gershom is doing the commandments from love and coming even to a higher level of love. Gershom is the surrounding aspect of God. He's above understanding. Someone's coming in. No, okay. So it comes out that this Merari, he carries the Karushim. That's, we said, is standing, Shittim with it standing up. This is what's called the lower fear of God. That from it is, you stop. Afterwards are Gershom. Gershom is carrying the curtains. That means, curtains means drawing these two levels of love, lower love and upper love by means of doing the commandments. Oh, now we're going to say kahat. I said before that kahat was like love and fear. We're going to see that's not exactly. Listen, the service of kahat, they carried the ark and the altars, etc., the menorah. This is what's called the upper fear. This is called the upper fear of God. This is much higher than even the level of the upper level of love. Well, fear is a good thing. We're going to see fear is the best thing possible. Kihine Ba'aron was ganuz, was covered over the tablets. And it says, Megale amukot mene choshech. Like it says that God revealed the depths from the darkness. Like it says, Amku machshavotecha God's thoughts are very deep. And revealing this depth, this was by means of the menorah, by the candelabra. We learned about that also. We're going to learn about it also next week. And the Torah is light. This is drawn down light and revelation from what's concealed. The Yosher Choshech Sitro, from where God is concealed. But the Torah, the essence of the Torah, is something different, totally different. B'chachma is beriro. Says, but with chachma is pure life. It's translated into Hebrew, in English, wisdom. But chachma really means the source of life. Chachma. Even in English, if you think about it, there's a person that understands, a person who's smart, and a person who's wise. Usually to say a wise person, you connect that with a person who's old. An old person is wise. Why? Because old people have experience. And experience is much more real and deep than understanding is. There's stupid old people also. But even those people, when they have experience in life, they experience life, then that gives them a certain sense of, a deeper sense of reality than every chachma. And this, with this deep sense of reality, chachma, the source of life, awareness, pure consciousness, you can refine things. Maybe in English, the closest maybe you can come to it is your conscience. Your conscience. Conscience is some sort of a connection to life. Your conscience can also be derailed. Right? We talked about that before. Your conscience can also be, you know, you have your faith for the, you know, the Nazis, or for the you feel bad if you don't, you know, kill one of the enemy, or you feel bad if you don't turn in your parents, they had money, or the communists or whatever. So that can also be derailed. But ideally, feelings like being honest, love, care, even if you're going to lose, right? You're going to lose, but your conscience says you can't. Conscience is what refines the world. Kikol Torah is levarir biruin. The whole Torah is to refine the world. That's one of the big things now, what's going on in modern society with this woke movement and things like that. They want to do away with conscience. That was Hitler's big thing. The victory of the will. Victory of the will over what? Victory of the will over conscience. Your conscience shouldn't bother you. You should go and kill people and die, and it doesn't make any difference, babies and everything. Your conscience shouldn't bother you. Jews brought conscience into the world. That was one of his things, right? The Jews wrecked the world with their Torah, brought conscience into the world. And we Germans are free. We're like animals. Our conscience doesn't bother us. We're Superman, right? We're Ibermenschen. That's something. Conscience is something like chachma. Chachma. It keeps the world in order, right? It keeps the world in order. Why didn't you pull the trigger? I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. Why didn't you steal the money? I can't do it, right? I stole. Oh, come on, you took the money from that old guy. Why do you give? No, my conscience bothered. That's what keeps the world orderly. Right? That's what keeps the world, right? Why are you telling the truth? What are you telling the truth for? If you lie, you're going to make money. You'll be able to this. I can't do it. I don't care if I lose everything. I can't. That's what makes the world a good world. That's the world. The chachma is beriro. With chachma is beriro. The Torah puts your conscience in the right place. Because the Torah, that's really what the 7 Noahide commandments is, by the way. 7 Noahide commandments is that the Torah putting human conscience in the right place. That you feel bad if you kill someone. You feel bad if you want to be a homosexual, if you want to do this. You feel bad, right? You say, listen, I can't, I shouldn't do this. This is not right. It feels good, right? It seems right. I get a big benefit out of it, but something's telling me this is not really right. You know, I got to get married, have a family. I don't want to do it, but it's not right, right? Stealing money, it's just not right. I don't know why, right? And therefore, so it says kahat, that's what's called the upper fear. The upper fear. They carried mainly the ark. That's what's said. The ark has the Torah in it. That's kahat. So we have the lower fear, that's Merari. Lower fear means stop. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm in the wrong direction. Gershom, that's the garments. That's what's called the lower love of God. And doing the commandments which that brings you, that's Gershom. But Kahat, that's what's called the upper fear. Lo yikahat amim. It says by Yehuda that to him will be gathered the people. Yakan shun amamaya, that the people will be gathered to him. This is the thing of all the amim, all the nations will be gathered. That's the thing of refinement, refining the world. By means of chachma, by means of the Torah, is drawn down also what's called the upper fear of God. Upper fear of God means pure life. Just like every normal person drives on the proper side of the street, right? Why do you do it? Because that's what's called proper, healthy fear. When you say, you're a coward, why don't you drive on the wrong side of the street? Why? That's ridiculous. Right? It's natural. You just naturally want to live. That's what the upper fear is. You naturally want to really live according to what God wants. Kanota, like it's known, is in yira in chachma. If there's no wisdom, if there's no fear, there's no wisdom. That's the lower fear brings to wisdom. And if there's no wisdom, then you can't have fear. That's what's called, first of all, you have to have what's called the lower fear. And then if you don't have your fear, to stop yourself from doing bad things, if you don't have the lower fear, you're a tatoa, then you can't come to wisdom, to be aware of what's right and wrong. And that's the thing of the crushing, like we said before. The lower fear, that's stopping and saying, listen, I'm not going to serve myself. I want to serve God. Afterwards, there's in Chachma, there's no Yira. This is what's called the upper fear. Upper fear. That's by means of the Torah. And that's what Kahat carried. So it comes out the B'nai Kahat. This is what's called the upper fear of God that comes after love of God, which that's the thing of Gershon. And this is what in Shemona Esrei, which comes after love of Kriya Shema. So the love of Kriya Shema that we said, that's Gershon. That's the garments. That wraps you in the love of God. That's Gershon. And after that comes Kahat. And Kahat is the upper fear of God. So again, Merari is the lower fear of God. Stopping from doing bad. Holding yourself back from doing bad. That's Merari. After that is Gershom. Gershom is surrounding with love. That brings us to do the commandments. And afterwards is Kahat. Kahat is the garment, the vessels of the temple. That's the upper fear. That's learning Torah. And we'll talk about that more, God willing. We still didn't answer our question. Right? Why is it that we said that Gershom has a separate Torah portion to him? Why? We'll see why. That we'll see, God willing, on Friday. Friday we'll have a class. So what did we learn? We learned that the desert is this world. The tabernacle is the Jewish people, and more exactly, prayer. More exactly, prayer and doing the commandments. And that breaks down to three levels. Merari, that's turning from bad. Gershom, that's loving God. And Kahat, that's the upper fear of God. That's in the Torah, pure godliness. As we'll talk about more, God willing, we'll see if we can finish this on Friday. Now let's do the speech of the Rebbe. 1 second. About the angels. Remember we learned that in angels.